Hi friends, in this video I'm going to teach you how to make 48 sentences using a single verb. After that I will add 4 more verbs to that, and totally we will be making about 240 sentences which we will be practicing. Once you have practiced this for 240 sentences, your vocal cords will open and the words will come out freely. But you need to practice along with me. When I repeat a sentence, after that you can repeat that sentence and keep going. Let me start with kick, K-I-C-K, kick. We'll make a sentence out of that. You kick the football. You don't kick the football. Do you kick the football? Don't you kick the football? You kicked the football. You didn't kick the football. Did you kick the football? Didn't you kick the football? You will kick the football. You won't kick the football. Will I kick the football? Won't I kick the football? You are kicking the football. You aren't kicking the football. Am I kicking the football? Amn't I kicking the football? You were kicking the football. You weren't kicking the football. Was I kicking the football? Wasn't I kicking the football? You will be kicking the football. You won't be kicking the football. Will I be kicking the football? Won't I be kicking the football? You have kicked the football. You haven't kicked the football. Have I kicked the football? Haven't I kicked the football? You had kicked the football. You hadn't kicked the football. Had I kicked the football? Hadn't I kicked the football? You will have kicked the football. You won't have kicked the football. Will I have kicked the football? Won't I have kicked the football? You have been kicking the football. You haven't been kicking the football. Have I been kicking the football? Haven't I been kicking the football? You had been kicking the football. You hadn't been kicking the football. Had I been kicking the football? Hadn't I been kicking the football? You will have been kicking the football. You won't have been kicking the football. Will I have been kicking the football? Won't I have been kicking the football? This is the first verb and we have made 48 sentences. Now let us take the second verb and make another 48 sentences. The second verb is kneel, K-N-E-E-L. They kneel for prayers. They don't kneel for prayers. Do they kneel for prayers? Don't they kneel for prayers? They kneeled for prayers. They didn't kneel for prayers. Did they kneel for prayers? Didn't they kneel for prayers? They will kneel for prayers. They won't kneel for prayers. Will they kneel for prayers? Won't they kneel for prayers? They are kneeling for prayers. They aren't kneeling for prayers. Are they kneeling for prayers? Aren't they kneeling for prayers? They were kneeling for prayers. They weren't kneeling for prayers. Were they kneeling for prayers? Weren't they kneeling for prayers? They will be kneeling for prayers. They won't be kneeling for prayers. Will they be kneeling for prayers? Won't they be kneeling for prayers? They have knelt for prayers. They haven't knelt for prayers. Have they knelt for prayers? Haven't they knelt for prayers? They had knelt for prayers. They hadn't knelt for prayers. Had they knelt for prayers? Hadn't they knelt for prayers? They will have knelt for prayers. They won't have knelt for prayers. Will they have knelt for prayers? Won't they have knelt for prayers? They have been kneeling for prayers. They haven't been kneeling for prayers. Have they been kneeling for prayers? Haven't they been kneeling for prayers? They had been kneeling for prayers. They hadn't been kneeling for prayers. Had they been kneeling for prayers? Hadn't they been kneeling for prayers? They will have been kneeling for prayers. They won't have been kneeling for prayers. Will they have been kneeling for prayers? Won't they have been kneeling for prayers? Let's go to the third verb. The third verb is knit, K-N-I-T, knit. The sentence is, girls knit sweaters. Girls knit sweaters. Girls don't knit sweaters. Do girls knit sweaters? Don't girls knit sweaters? Girls knitted sweaters. Girls didn't knit sweaters. Did girls knit sweaters? Didn't girls knit sweaters? Girls will knit sweaters. Girls won't knit sweaters. Will girls knit sweaters? Won't girls knit sweaters? Girls are knitting sweaters. Girls aren't knitting sweaters. Are girls knitting sweaters? Aren't girls knitting sweaters? Girls were knitting sweaters. Girls weren't knitting sweaters. Were girls knitting sweaters? Weren't girls knitting sweaters? Girls will be knitting sweaters. Girls won't be knitting sweaters. Will girls be knitting sweaters? Won't girls be knitting sweaters? Girls have knit sweaters. Girls haven't knit sweaters. Have girls knit sweaters? Haven't girls knit sweaters? Girls had knit sweaters. Girls hadn't knit sweaters. Had girls knit sweaters? Hadn't girls knit sweaters? Girls will have knit sweaters. Girls won't have knit sweaters. Will girls have knit sweaters? Won't girls have knit sweaters? Girls have been knitting sweaters. Girls haven't been knitting sweaters. Have girls been knitting sweaters? Haven't girls been knitting sweaters? Girls had been knitting sweaters. Girls hadn't been knitting sweaters. Had girls been knitting sweaters? Hadn't girls been knitting sweaters? Girls will have been knitting sweaters. Girls won't have been knitting sweaters. Will girls have been knitting sweaters? Won't girls have been knitting sweaters? Now this takes us to the next verb, and the next verb is knock. Okay, the sentence for knock is, it knocks things. It doesn't knock things. Does it knock things? Doesn't it knock things? It knocked things. It didn't knock things. Did it knock things? Didn't it knock things? It will knock things. It won't knock things. Will it knock things? Won't it knock things? It is knocking things. It isn't knocking things. Is it knocking things? Isn't it knocking things? It was knocking things. It wasn't knocking things. Was it knocking things? Wasn't it knocking things? It will be knocking things. It won't be knocking things. Will it be knocking things? Won't it be knocking things? It has knocked things. It hasn't knocked things. Has it knocked things? Hasn't it knocked things? It had knocked things. It hadn't knocked things. Had it knocked things? Hadn't it knocked things? It will have knocked things. It won't have knocked things. Will it have knocked things? Won't it have knocked things? It has been knocking things. It hasn't been knocking things. Has it been knocking things? Hasn't it been knocking things? It had been knocking things. It hadn't been knocking things. Had it been knocking things? Hadn't it been knocking things? It will have been knocking things. It won't have been knocking things. Will it have been knocking things? Won't it have been knocking things? This takes us to the last verb, and the last verb is Kindle. Kindle. Here we are taking the name of a person and we are making a sentence using it as a subject. Sham kindles fire. Sham doesn't kindle fire. Does Sham kindle fire? Doesn't Sham kindle fire? Sham kindled fire. Sham didn't kindle fire. Did Sham kindle fire? Did Sham kindle fire? Sham will kindle fire. Sham won't kindle fire. Will Sham kindle fire? Won't Sham kindle fire? Sham is kindling fire. Sham isn't kindling fire. Is Sham kindling fire? Isn't Sham kindling fire? Sham was kindling fire. Sham wasn't kindling fire. Was Sham kindling fire? Wasn't Sham kindling fire? Sham will be kindling fire. Sham won't be kindling fire. Will Sham be kindling fire? Won't Sham be kindling fire? Sham has kindled fire. Sham hasn't kindled fire. Has Sham kindled fire? Hasn't Sham kindled fire? Sham had kindled fire. Sham hadn't kindled fire. Had Sham kindled fire? Hadn't Sham kindled fire? Sham will have kindled fire. Sham won't have kindled fire. Will Sham have kindled fire? Won't Sham have kindled fire? Sham will have kindled fire. Sham has been kindling fire. Sham hasn't been kindling fire. Has Sham been kindling fire? Hasn't Sham been kindling fire? Sham had been kindling fire. Sham hadn't been kindling fire. Had Sham been kindling fire? Hadn't Sham been kindling fire? Sham will have been kindling fire. Sham won't have been kindling fire. Will Sham have been kindling fire? Won't Sham have been kindling fire? Friends, in this video, I have brought you 240 sentences. And I have repeated it slowly for you so that you will be able to repeat it after me. And please repeat it loudly. Just thinking it in your mind will not help. I want your vocal cords to open and I want the words to come out freely from your mouth, because this is what we are learning. We are learning here not to listen but to speak. To speak, the words have to come out freely from the mouth. For the words to come out freely from the mouth, we have to practice reading loudly. In my next video, I'm going to add 5 more verbs to that video, and I'm going to bring out another 240 sentences. I want you to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. By the end of this video session, you will be able to ask and answer questions and answers confidently. Friends, you may subscribe to my channel in YouTube. To subscribe, please press here. Follow me on Twitter by clicking here. Want to follow me on Facebook? Click here to like my page.